Ever wonder why, no matter how many rules a company makes, people still act in ways that seem to go against them? We've all seen it. The manual says quality over speed, but everyone is rushing to meet deadlines. The government passes a law, but behavior barely changes. It seems logical to believe that rules are what shape our actions. They're clear, they're written down, and there are consequences for breaking them. But what if I told you there's a quieter, more powerful force at play? A force that shapes our behavior far more than any rulebook ever could. This force is called a feedback loop, and understanding it is the key to understanding why people, organizations, and even entire digital platforms behave the way they do. Let's dive in. Rules tell us what we should do. They work on the level of instruction and assume we'll just comply. But think about your own life. Do you consult a rulebook for every decision you make? Of course not. Our behavior isn't just about understanding rules. It's driven by much more immediate, tangible pressures. Rules are often abstract and enforced inconsistently. They describe an ideal world. A rule might say long-term thinking is key, but if your bonus is tied to this quarter's sales numbers, where do you think your focus will be? That's right, the immediate reward wins. This is where rules show their limits. They describe ideals, but feedback loops shape our reality. So what exactly is a feedback loop? It's simple. An action produces an outcome, and that outcome influences your next action. Unlike rules, feedback loops don't operate on instruction. They operate on experience. When you do something and get a response like on social media, a quick bonus from your boss, a compliment from a colleague, or even just a website loading faster, that response is information. It's a signal. Over time, we naturally start doing more of what gets us favorable signals and less of what gets us unfavorable ones. This isn't always a conscious process. We're not all sitting there trying to game the system. We just adapt. Feedback loops are woven into our daily activities, constantly teaching us what works and what doesn't. They shape what feels effective, what feels rewarding, and what feels like a waste of time. This is why feedback almost always outperforms rules. Rules exist in the realm of intention, while feedback operates at the level of consequence. We don't make moment-to-moment decisions by rereading company policy. We respond to the signals around us. These immediate, repeated signals form our habits and our priorities. People don't wake up in the morning thinking, "How can I undermine the rules today?" They simply adapt to their environment. Whatever feels safe, successful, or efficient becomes their default behavior, regardless of what the official rules might say. A huge part of this is something called implicit learning. We learn by doing, not just by being told. When you ride a bike, you don't think about the physics, you feel the balance. It's the same with feedback. Certain actions start to feel easier, while others feel risky or unrewarding. This kind of learning through experience is faster and sticks with us much longer than memorizing a set of rules. When a system gives consistent feedback, our behavior will naturally align with that feedback, even if the written rules say something completely different. And here's the really fascinating part. Feedback loops don't need to be intentional. A system can shape behavior, even if no one designed it to. Think about metrics, dashboards, employee ranking systems, or even the response times of a customer service team. These things all create feedback. They send powerful signals about what's being watched, what's being valued, and what's being ignored. Over time, we all start to optimize for what's being measured, even if the designers never explicitly said, "This is the most important thing." This is how systems end up producing results that nobody actually wanted. Our behavior doesn't adapt to the stated goals, it adapts to the underlying feedback structure. Now, let's bring in automation. Automation is like pouring gasoline on the fire of feedback loops. In the old days, feedback was slow. Your performance review was once a quarter or once a year. The consequences of your actions were delayed. But today, metrics update in real time. Dashboards refresh every second. Sales leaderboards are always visible. The feedback is constant and immediate. This creates incredibly tight feedback loops, where our behavior becomes almost reflexive. We're not making deep strategic decisions. We're just reacting to the latest signal. In this environment, rules become even weaker because they simply can't compete with the relentless, immediate nature of automated feedback. Even something as simple as visibility is a powerful form of feedback. What gets seen gets attention. What's invisible is forgotten. When a company puts up a leaderboard showing everyone's sales numbers, it creates pressure. Even without a direct reward or punishment, people will change their behavior. They'll work harder to climb the rankings or to avoid being at the bottom. Why? Because they know they're being watched. Visibility quietly becomes a major driver of behavior. No rule required. So we can see why rules often fail, especially in our modern, automated world. Rules are static, but feedback is dynamic. Rules are general, but feedback is specific and personal. Rules are interpreted, but feedback is experienced directly. Organizations see a problem, and their first instinct is often to add more rules, but the behavior doesn't change. That's because they haven't touched the underlying feedback loop. As long as the feedback system is rewarding a certain behavior, any rule that contradicts it will have almost no effect. This process also leads to something called behavioral drift. It's like a river slowly changing its course. Small, individual adaptations to feedback start to add up. Over time, the collective behavior of a group can drift far away from the original intentions without any single dramatic event. Each tiny adjustment seems logical on its own, but together, they completely reshape how things work. The rules might still be on the books, but in reality, everyone is operating in a different way, guided by the invisible currents of feedback. This gives us the illusion of control. We write down rules and create policies, and it feels like we've defined how things should be. When reality doesn't match the rulebook, it's easy to blame people for not complying. But more often than not, the problem isn't the people, it's the structure. People are just responding rationally to the signals they receive every single day. They are aligning their behavior with how the system actually works, not how it's described on paper. So, what's the solution? It's not about getting rid of rules entirely. It's about designing our systems with feedback in mind. We need to ask better questions. What actions get immediate feedback in our organization? What metrics are the most visible? What behaviors are we implicitly rewarding, even if we don't mean to? Where is there friction, and where is the path of least resistance? By understanding these dynamics, we can start to align our feedback loops with our desired outcomes. We can build structures that naturally encourage the behavior we want to see, supporting the rules instead of contradicting them. Interestingly, this sometimes means slowing feedback down. In a world obsessed with real-time data, that sounds counterintuitive. But when feedback is too fast, we become jumpy and reactive. We start chasing noise instead of signal and lose the big picture. Sometimes, delaying feedback by using weekly reports instead of real-time dashboards, for example, can lead to better, more thoughtful decisions. Ultimately, feedback loops don't just change our actions, they change our judgment. When a system repeatedly signals what's important, it starts to shape how we think about success, value, and risk. We internalize the system's priorities until they become our own. This is the true power of feedback. It doesn't just change what we do, it changes who we are within that system. So, while rules certainly have their place, feedback matters more. In any modern system, especially those driven by automation and AI, behavior will follow the feedback loops far more reliably than it follows the rulebook. The real task isn't just to write better rules, but to design better structures, because in the end, a system doesn't behave according to the values it claims to have. It behaves according to the actions it repeatedly rewards and reinforces. Thanks for watching. If this gave you a new way to think about behavior, hit that like button and subscribe for more insights. See you next time.